October is probably my worst reading month. Ken Liu, you're so smart. A reference to What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift, I mean the bridge. You will expect plenty of smuts. Hi guys, this is Dan. Welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing? Halloween has just passed. The next big season coming is Christmas, also meaning that it is nearly the end of the year. How is your reading year so far? If good, keep going and smash it. If not, don't worry, we still got time. We still have 2 months left in this year. To be honest, October is probably my worst reading month so far in 2024. I went to Newcastle for like a weekend trip, but my reading statistics doesn't look that good for October. I can only finish 4 fantasy books in October, with one of them as an audiobook. The average rating of this month is 3.5 stars, which is exactly the same as last month, September. Looking at the page count, 2,700, you may think, it is great, Dan. Why are you so upset about it? Because it is not the full picture of it. The audiobook I finished in this month is a long one. I just spent too much time on it. I even forgot when did I start this book. So I nearly spent, 2 months to finish this book, which I think is ridiculous. Which also means that I can only finish 3 books physically, which I think is slightly less than usual. With these statistics, I am more determined than usual to read more books in November. Mark my words. Maybe we can chat about the books according to the time I finished them. First of all, this one took me the longest to finish. I nearly spent 2 weeks on it, and it is also the thickest in October. This book is The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu, the second book of the Dandelion Dynasty. This one I am a bit disappointed, I'm sorry. Compared to The Grace of Kings, the first book I finished in September, I do prefer the first book more. If you haven't heard about this series, The Dandelion Dynasty, it is an Asian-inspired fantasy that is set in the world of Dara. In the second book, we are still following Kuni and his family after the conflict in the first one. Now comes to the peaceful time with the ruling of the court of Dandelion. In the beginning of the book, we are introduced to this new kind of imperial exam that aims to recruit all the talents across Dara. In here, we are introduced to a new character, a very talented examinee called Somi. She came from a poor village, but her talent attracted the attention of Luan, a very important advisor to Kuni during the conflict in the first book. But Sumi had a secret about how she passed the provincial exam, and this secret was manipulated by the Empress, Jia. In the first half of the book, we are thrown into this political intrigue in the court. We are quite familiar with most of the characters because we have been following them since the first book. Kuni, as the emperor, has to think about who's gonna ascend to the throne. Empress Jia was doing something behind the scene to prove what she is believing is right. This part, I would say, suffered the same problem I had in the first book, which is the very dry introduction. With Somi, this new character, we are like reading a bibliography of her, how she grew up in a poor village, how clever she is, and her adventure with Luan. All of it is just quite dry. And sometimes we are like taken out of what is happening now. I do think with what happened in the past, when all these dots are tied together, you would think, Ken Liu, you're so smart. But reading on its own is a bit difficult to go through. It is honestly dry. Whether you agree with Empress Jia's way of, proving herself right, I still enjoy the suspense, the drama, the interaction with all these characters that we have been following since the beginning. Then in the second part, we are switched to the invasion of a foreign race called the Liu. I'm not sure is it how you pronounce it, but let's pretend it is. The Liu can ride a mythical creature called Jura the Fin that can fly and breathe fire. With how brutal these invaders are, honestly, their way of living is so different from Dara, and how their leader, Tamriel, come to power is also another very bloody, brutal, smart plan. By the way, the court of Dandelion has to unite and defend their home. In here, once again, you can see how smart Ken Liu is in writing grand battle. I do love how they could gather the talents, how they decipher some secret message, and think about how they can counter the advantage of the Liu Chu, and then the last battle was just epic and a really good salute to Jin, this strategist. I also love how Zombie and Princess Clara work together. The chemistry is great, and then how they come up with this kind of silk pun technology. Something Ken Liu come up with the inspiration of Asian technology. But between all these exciting chapters, we got the life of life of Luan. How he got through the storming barrier that is blocking Dara and the Liu Chu, and then how he gonna survive without much water and food, and also his adventure on the other side. I mean, all of that once again is just like really dry. When all these researchers gonna dissect this mythical creature and come up with the conclusion about their physical properties, once again, I do appreciate how detailed Ken Liu is when he think about this fantasy world. But once again and again, it is just too much too dry to get through. I still remember the reason why I love the first book so much is seeing how a familiar part of Chinese history is translated into a fantasy world. It kind of keeping me interested in how Ken Liu gonna play this part of history. But coming to the second book, I would say this historical element is not as strong as the first book. The notable thing that is stuck to the history is this character, Empress Jia, aka Empress Lui in history. How she gonna eliminate those that are holding military power, as well as the other lovers of the emperor. This part did happen in history. Maybe the little rebellion of the Taro states as well, they also happen in history. The invasion of the foreign race in the second book is just a fictional touch. Same goes to naming Princess Clara as the successor, or she marrying something from a foreign race, because this plan was opposed by the Empress at that time. This book feels to me is like the storyline of the first generation passing to the next one to carry the legacy of the Court of the Danian. So overall, it is not a bad read, but I don't think this one is like the best book of the series yet, so I end up giving this one a 3-star. The next one I have sounds interesting, but a bit
chaotic.
I have Long Live Evil by Sarah Rees Brennan, the first book of the Time of Iron series. Let me put this one down because I don't really like holding a book when doing a review. My arm will hurt later. Someone teleported to her favorite fantasy world, but she turns out to be the villain. You would expect this one to be a fun, chaotic ride. But this one turns out a bit too much for me. In this book, we're gonna follow our main character, Ray, who is suffering from cancer. One day, a mysterious woman offering her a deal. She will be teleported to her favorite fantasy world, Iyam, and she needs to retrieve the flower of life and death. If she can do so, her cancer will be cured and live as a healthy person happily ever after. She loves this story so much, so she agrees with this deal. But turns out she's not going to be the hero in the story. Instead, she is the stepsister, Rihala, who's gonna be executed tomorrow. The first and the most important thing Ray has to do is to dodge this execution and then find a way to get to the greenhouse and retrieve this rarely blossom flower. With the knowledge about this world, she would help the progress of the plot and gather a group of villains to assist her. In turn, she would change their fate. I think it is such a refreshing take on a fantasy story. Imagine us, fellow booktubers, no, you readers as well, transport to our favorite fantasy world and see what we're gonna do. But I just think this book is just like too experimental. The narrative of this story is usually like with the world building from the mouth of Ray because she is familiar with the story, and then with a bit of her modern sarcasm in a fantasy world, and sometimes some flashbacks about her cancer journey. Quite a lot of times she would literally break the fourth wall of this fantasy world and use some modern language, let's say flashback, Netflix, Madonna, Beyonce. And even a reference to What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift, I mean the bridge. Oh, the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now. Why? 'Cause she's dead. I mean, you see these lyrics in a fantasy world, what would you feel? I think sometimes this kind of humor would work for me, but I think in this book, it is just maybe a step too much and it is just like low-key cringy. And then the flashbacks of the cancer journey of Ray sounds real to me. It is like from the personal experience of the author, so sometimes it would get quite dark. With the realistic cancer flashback, the modern sarcasm in a fantasy world, and then the traditional world building. Putting all of this together is a bit off. I don't think the balance is right in this book. And then in this book, there are quite a lot of time for the villain to say, "We are villains, so we like this."
We are the villains and they are the heroines, so they're gonna win, blah blah blah.
I just find this kind of narrative could be repetitive. I know the focus of this book is about a group of villains. Sometimes there would be scheming and plotting in the court. Someone got secrets to hide and some are so eager to hunt for the truth, let alone Ray's mission to retrieve this flower. I just find this execution can be better. Sometimes it could be quite obvious for what our characters are plotting, but sometimes the author assumes us to know something about it. So I wish when this group of villains call themselves villains, I would expect some more villainous to it. Also, I think Ray's character is fun but a bit dumb. She is supposed to know what is going on with the story, but she didn't get the full picture because of her cancer treatment. So when she tried to help to develop the plot, some future events may take place now or even cause some unexpected turns of the story. This just didn't happen once or twice, it is more than that, or even the whole story goes wrong. Sometimes she might even make some rookie villain errors. So at this point, I'm not sure, did she mess up with the plot deliberately or like she's just careless? So that leads up to the ending of the story, and I feel like it is more like a setup for the next book. I wouldn't say I am happy or disappointed about this book. I am kind of relieved to finish it. I honestly don't know what goes wrong with this book. I really want the ending to be more conclusive in a sense because it feels to me more like a reveal. Putting this one on my TBR, I know this one gonna be chaotic but fun. But it is just like way too much, way too far for my taste. With all these problems I have with this one, I end up giving it 2 stars and DNF the whole series. You watched this far already, don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe to my channel Fantasy so you will know how my reading gonna be like in November. Also, why not share your wrap up in the comment below, maybe share the one you love the most. After such a disappointment, luckily I found a 5-star read and it is a really solid 5-star. And this one is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, the last book of the Green Bone Saga. If you want a really detailed emotional roller coaster of how I feel about this book, you may want to check this vlog out. It is just a lot and there will be some spoilers for some important plots in this book, so I'll try to be spoiler free with this review here. To summarize this emotional journey, the Green Bone Saga is an Asian-inspired fantasy that is set in the world of K-Con, where Jade plays an essential role in this world. Let's say Jade can give you some superhuman abilities or Jade itself is important for trade. We will follow quite a lot of POV from the Cow family, also the leading family for the No Peak clan, leader Hito and his wife Wen, and then the weatherman Shay, and also we have Andon, the kids like Nico, Rue, and Jaya. Once again, they are all from the No Peak clan who want to preserve the tradition of Jade in K-Con. They need to fight against the Mountain clan, their rival, which was led by a very fierce leader, Ayat Mada. Coming to the last book, this kind of conflict continues. K-Con is like the center not just for the local clan rivalry, but also caught the attention of foreign powers, let's say the Espania, Yucatan, and Shota. This last book I would say is packed with a captivating plot and exceptional character growth. These two clans has tried different ways to win over another for decades. Maybe trying to confront the important figures, maybe cutting off resources on an international level, or maybe come up with a grand plan. But what they are doing is just hurting each other, especially to the Cow family. There are just too many heartbreaking storylines in this book. How Hilo and Wen have to repair and heal their relationship because of what they have gone through. And then for Wen's brother, Ta, got exiled and his redemption. How Hilo's and Wen's kid, Ru, emotional. How Wen and her kid, Nico, their relationship changed throughout this book. I just find Fonda Lee not just good at writing unexpected drama, but also the depth of the emotions and the growth of these characters. My favorite character, without a doubt, is Wen. She is a stone-eye, or you may call her non-reactive, because she can't process the power of Jade. So from someone just simply falling in love with Hilo, and then try to speak up in family meetings, taking risks for the family so the whole clan can get some advantages, to now assisting the clan as much as she can, even though with what she has gone through in the second book, as well as how she treated her son Nico before and after some important events. Thinking all those moments sending me goosebumps now, even though I read it maybe a week ago. Not just for Wen, other characters in this whole series has gone through a lot and grown a lot, and I mean a lot. Some may say that in this final book, time jumped quite a lot. I agree with it, but I think it is such a great device in here. This book starts soon after the second book, and I think that if time don't move this fast, we won't be able to see some great storylines. Also, when I said time jump, it is not like 5 years after, 10 years after, 50 years later now. It is not the case. In this book, time moves like maybe 1 or 2 months forward, or at most maybe 1 or 2 years. So the whole plot would still make sense and you wouldn't be confused by how time moves in this series. To me, the time jump is not really a massive problem. We will also see moments when our older generation characters that we have been following since the first book, they will try to teach the younger generation a lesson from their own experience, the experience that we have also read. So these moments could be meaningful, emotional because we have seen how much they have grown. With all of these great characters, I would definitely remember the Cow family, and the Greenbone Saga is probably the best series I have read in this year, so I give this final book 5 stars. If you know me, I have been listening to the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas since March, I would say, and in October, I finally finished the 5th book, The Empire of Storms. I honestly don't know where to start with this one because I have been listening to it for so long, and I don't know like this plot belongs to which book, so in my mind it is like one whole thing rather than like separate books, if that makes sense to you. I would say I enjoy the world building in this book because finally we got some more knowledge about this world rather than simply following our badass alien. In this book, Alien and her court has to find allies across the world so that they could fight the Dark Force, everyone. How this story ends did shock me because I didn't expect this turn of events. But when everyone showing up tried to repay their debt and Alien tried to sacrifice herself, I hope I'm being subtle here, didn't give out too much. I really didn't see all of this coming at all. Starting this book means that I am already halfway through this series. We have followed most of the characters latest by the 3rd book. Everyone has gone through quite a lot since the beginning of the 1st book. I mean, looking back to the 1st book now, it is about Alien, not even called Alien at that time, try to be the champion for the king. I mean, what's happened? Some might be enemies, some might be long-term friends, and some may have some history with each other. So when finally all of them coming together, it was a bit touching. In this book, I did enjoy the plot of Elite and Lorcan. Elite want to find Aiden because she got something important to show and tell her, and then Lorcan is always this mysterious, unpredictable fake warrior. So when these two coming together unexpectedly, their chemistry is great and interesting. They act like they don't know much about this world and then pretend they are in a relationship. But we all know that this kind of fake relationship would turn real at last. But how this relationship ends in this book is heartbreaking. Also, in a Sarah J. Maas book, you would expect plenty of smuts, but this one is YA, so it is not too explicit, but there's still quite a lot of it. Aiden with Rowan and then Dorian with Milan. Oh, quite a lot. Talking about Milan, in the last couple of books, I didn't really know why are we following her. But coming to this one, when we know more about this world, when every piece coming together, I did enjoy the character development of her. Overall, this one is entertaining with some more character development and more knowledge about the world building. So I will give this one 3 stars. Alright, so these are all the books I finished in October, and I mean what a roller coaster it is. We got something real good like the Jade Legacy, but we also got some little disappointment like the Long-Lived Devil. Also, don't be shy, you can share all the books you finished in October down in the comment below. So, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I'll see you all real soon. Goodbye.